All right. Thank you for coming on the podcast.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. So I always hate this question. I say that every episode, but I guess probably most people actually do know you that listen, because there's only like 10 people that listen to this pretty regularly. But for those of you, hopefully, who are new to the podcast, if there are any new listeners, it is probably good that you introduce yourself. So you're Claire.
Yep. Yes.
And you are Olivia's like best friend from when you guys were little.
Growing up, yeah.
Yeah. So anything else that people should know about you?
Oh, I don't know.
You're not in school anymore.
Not in school. I'm working.
Working. What do you do for work?
I work at the INL,
Which is
the national laboratory here.
the nuclear one?
The nuclear national laboratory. Yep.
Do you do anything with nuclear?
I can't tell you that.
Really? Is your job really classified?
No. No, I just like to say that to make it sound cooler, but I don't. I do. It sounds cool, but I do the boring stuff of the cool place. So
I feel like half of Idaho Falls works at the lab.
they just reached like 6,000 employees.
Holy
and most of them
cow.
are like in the area. There's very few that are out of state. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So what do you do out there?
I help with contracts. So whenever they hire like outside people to do things, I help do the contract, which sounds very legal. It's not super legal.
Does it require a lot of reading?
Yes. And you have to be pretty detail oriented. Like you have to catch.
Have you gotten
little
like pretty
things.
good at speed reading?
No.
Like, do you read fast?
No.
Because I read so slow. I feel like I read it probably, if I had to guess, like maybe a 4th grade level.
Oh, no.
Like it's bad. I like still sound stuff out.
Well, oh boy.
I'm just kidding.
Actually, we
But
were
not
just talking
really.
about this. It's good that you can actually do that, though. A lot of people can't do that anymore.
What do you mean?
I had a teacher friend that was saying that
People can't sound stuff out?
she was testing. She teaches like 1st grade, and she was testing their like learning process on some adults, and like some of her friends that are adults couldn't sound words out. Like I think
how do
people
they-
just
how
get
do they
used to
read?
memorize. I don't know.
How did they learn how to read?
I don't know. I think it's just been a long time, so they forgot.
I forgot how.
Yeah.
What an O sounds like?
Yeah. Yeah. She's like, it was kind of scary. And I'm like, yeah, that's a little bit worrisome.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, that shocks me, but that also doesn't really shock me because I
Yeah.
know kind of where I read. And I'm like, and I feel like, I'm like, I mean, I'm dumb, but I'm not like,
No.
not like that dumb. And I'm like, well, I mean, if there are
Yeah.
people that are dumber than me, then, I mean, that's the next step.
No, yeah. I thought I was a fast reader until, well, I talked to Olivia about how many books she reads. And I was like,
she like looks at the page and she's like, flip.
Yeah. I did learn how to speed read
I'm
in
like, you're
college.
not reading. That's what I always tell her. I'm like, you're not actually
It's just
reading.
kind of looking at the page.
You just like to tell people you read a lot of books really,
It's
really
not
fast,
real.
and it's not real at all. You don't.
That makes me feel better. She's
but-
just faking it.
Yeah, but unfortunately, that's not true because then she'll be like, "No, this is what it said,"
tell you,
and then
yeah,
I'll
all
go
the
through
details.
it and I'll take my 10 minutes to read the page real quick, and then she'll be like, "I'll be like, yeah, I guess you're
Yeah.
right."
No, I've recently come to the realization that I am a slow reader.
Really?
Yeah, I did learn to speed read in college, but it's very exhausting. Like it takes a lot of work and focus to do it.
So wait, are you a slow reader because you just don't read a lot, or do you feel like you're
I think I
just?
just am naturally slow. I don't, or maybe it's like the way that I'm imagining it in my head. Like I
that's-
like to really imagine, which I think everyone does. So again, maybe I'm just slow at that part too, but I'm really picturing it in my head and like how they're saying it and what they're doing while they're saying it. And so maybe that I'm telling myself that this to make me feel better, but I'm slow because I'm really imagining it and really taking it all in and absorbing it all. So
Okay.
we'll go with that.
So how much do you actually read them?
Quite a bit. Not your one book a week. I wish
Okay.
I could do that.
Yeah.
Maybe that'll be a New Year goal, but probably like 1 or 2 books a month, I would say.
That's
at
pretty
least.
good. Has that been like always? Have you always read that much?
I used to read more. I used to read
Really?
a lot more. Yeah.
Like when you were in high school, college?
Yeah. Like ever since I was little, I've been a big reader and I read a ton. That was always like my best grade. And
Really?
my teachers quickly figured out, I don't know if you ever did this, but we always, in a lot of grades growing up, we had to read a certain amount a day or something and then have our parents sign off. And quickly my
I
teachers
just lied.
Okay, well,
I was like,
my
yeah, I
teachers, my teachers would think that I was lying because I would write down how much I was reading. But after like the first couple days of school, they figured out quickly that I was telling the truth. So
Really?
yeah, I used to read a lot more, but I still read a decent amount, and I'm in a book club.
Nice.
So that's an additional book a month sometimes.
Okay. So who fostered that love for reading for you? Was that your parents, or is that just something that you just naturally picked up?
I think it was mostly natural. I mean, my parents were good at helping me learn how to read. Like I learned pretty young. So yeah, they were very supportive of that, but they were, I don't know. I don't really picture them reading when I think about where that comes from. I feel like it was natural.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And then what kind of books do you typically read? Is it going to be books like the last lecture that we're talking about today? Is this like your go-to book?
No, I read quite a few books. Like
You more nonfiction?
Both. Kind of all over
balanced.
the place. Fiction, nonfiction. My only thing, biography, autobiography, historical fiction, like pretty much anything. If it's kind of the right thing.
I was about to say,
I don't know.
Like, is there anything where
The
you're
one
like...
thing that I have a hard time with is really hardcore fantasy.
Okay.
Where like a few people have recommended books that are very intense right from the get-go. So
Sorry, we have a bunch of dogs just running through. I'm sure you've seen them all on the camera, but we're trying to wrangle them out of there. Hey, buddy, get out of here.
Oh my goodness.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, you're good. You're good. They're coming out. Okay, perfect. Thanks. All right. Hardcore fantasy though is a no-go.
Yeah, when from the very first page, when it's all these words I don't understand and all these concepts that are specific to the world of the book, I have a hard time doing that. You know, a lot of fantasy will kind of ease you in, or they explain things one by one. I'm a very, very... I really love Harry Potter.
Okay.
So that comes to mind of like, Harry Potter's very good, I feel like, at easing you into the world, partly because that's part of the story, but there's a lot that's specific to that world, but I never felt overwhelmed. Like I didn't understand things. And there have been some that I've tried to read that are just really a lot right from the beginning, and I just can't really
That's how I felt
that.
That's how I felt about Dune. Dune was awful.
I couldn't get into that one.
So bad. I was just like, I don't have no idea. And then there's like a glossary or like a index in the back, and it's like, if you don't understand it, reference it in the back.
Red flag for me.
I'm like, no.
If the book has a glossary like that,
Yeah.
or an index,
No, that one was rough. Not a big fan of that one. So okay.
The movie was great, but I had a hard time getting into the book.
Yeah, not great. But this week's book is The Last Lecture.
Yeah.
And what were your initial thoughts about the book? Did you like it?
Really liked it. I actually was excited to read it because I remember my parents listening to it years ago on a car ride. They had it going, and I was pretty young, so I just kind of caught pieces here and there, but I remember being impressed even as a kid, which I thought was kind of funny. And so I was excited to actually read it as an adult. I really liked it. I wish that I could meet the author.
Yeah.
I think he sounds like a really cool guy.
He has done a lot with his life. I feel like for one person, like it was almost a little intimidating because I think a normal person who would write like a last lecture kind of ish book would be like, I did some of the things I wanted to do, but not all of them. This dude literally like lived the life he wanted to. Like
they
checked
were
it
great
off.
things too. Like they weren't small. They weren't typical. I feel like they were very kind of out there, big, fun, impressive things. And he managed to accomplish it. Yeah. Hopefully when I'm his age, it'll look a little different. But if I were to give a last lecture now or write a book like this now, it would not be very impressive.
Yeah. So I really liked his topic though that he chose. So the premise of the book, for those who haven't listened to it or read it or anything, it is a guy and it's a true story. So it's a guy who gets diagnosed with, what's it?
It starts as pancreatic and then turns into liver cancer.
Yeah. And he's given 6 months to live, essentially. And he's got kids that are, it's like 8, 4, and 1 or something like that.
I think 6.
Oh, yeah, 6.
2 and 1 or something.
Yeah, something like that. Young kids.
Young.
and a wife. And he basically decides that and he's a professor at
Carnegie Mellon.
Carnegie Mellon, that's the one.
Yeah.
Man, that's so sad. I'm like, I can't even remember these basic things.
Going.
I know. Well, and like right now, next week's book is Outliers.
Oh.
And I feel like they go really well, like together.
Yeah. Okay.
And so now when I was thinking, I like had to put Outliers down and then come back to this book and be like, okay, I was like, yeah, I got to like separate them in my head because they're very similar.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he goes to Carnegie Mellon, or he's a professor there, and he's asked to give a lecture, and he decides to make it kind of this big lecture that is going to be kind of a legacy that he can leave for his kids, and kind of everything that he's learned in life and what he would like to pass along to his kids. So he takes it kind of more personal than just a standard lecture at a university. And then after that, he goes and writes this book with the help of somebody else that kind of expounds on his lecture that he gave. So quick summary, but the title of his lecture that he gives, he titles it, what I should have written this down, like achieving your childhood
dreams. Yeah.
Achieving your childhood dreams. Do you think that was like a good topic? Or
yes, actually, if I heard that just on campus or something, I would kind of think it's a little bit funny, interesting, but maybe a little bit odd. But when he explains where it came from, and then you actually learn about his life, it's a very good topic and very interesting. I like that he thought that that's what he feels like is unique about him. That's where he said it came from. He's like, lots of people are professors, lots of people have families, lots of people are diagnosed with cancer. Like, what is unique about me? What would I want to share with people that's different about me? Why would they want to listen to me? And he realizes that he has accomplished a lot of those childhood dreams, which again, they were great dreams and very impressive. Yeah. That he did that in such a, half of a lifetime.
I don't know. It might be mine. It's fine. I don't think you can hear it on this. Okay. I think that's why. I paid so much money for these dumb mics. Hopefully. So what did you think was his most impressive childhood dream? Because the Imagineers was so cool.
That one comes to mind pretty quick. Also, the NASA riding in the zero gravity plane, that was pretty good because not a lot of people do that. And even though his students got to do it, he wasn't supposed to be included. And then he found a way kind of around that rule and got in there. He did a lot with his job. Yeah. That related to things I would not have expected. So he was a professor of computer science and focused on virtual reality, which is a cool topic, but not one that I could see him using to accomplish a lot of the things on that list. But he managed it anyway, a lot of times through that career.
Yeah. So it was really neat the way that he was able to do that, because he was able to like meet Spock and like have a whole day with him, cool too. And like a relationship where he's like texting him later. He was able to be an Imagineer and like design roller coasters at Disney. And
just for a short amount of time, like after being an academic, which was super unusual. And then I think it said that he was like a once a week consultant for them for like 10 years. Yeah. Which again is also not very common. Yeah. So
no, that was super cool. Yeah. So while reading this book, did you think about any of your childhood dreams? Because that's what always kept in mind. I was like, well, what were my childhood dreams?
I thought less about my childhood dreams and more about how bad I am at making and keeping my goals.
Oh, really?
Yes, because in my mind, that's kind of, they're childhood dreams. And I lamented my lackluster imagination. I was like, well, where did that go? Did I ever have it? I'm not sure. But no, I feel like they're dreams, but in order to accomplish them, right, they're kind of goals. Like he kept them in mind, even though
his life changed.
His life changed a lot. They were always, I think, kind of there in the back of his mind. At least that's what he made it sound like. And I don't know what it is, but I do not like goals, maybe because I never accomplished them. I don't know what it is, but the idea of a goal to me is very limiting isn't the right word, but I feel like once I have it as a goal, it loses its appeal, or I lose my motivation to accomplish it, which doesn't make any sense and is probably a personal problem I need to work on. But yeah, even though, but then there's that kind of that other side to it, which is that if you don't focus on things and make them goals, you're less likely to accomplish them. So I'm not sure where that leaves me, but so I was just thinking that whole time, like, man, he's really good at this of making these goals and keeping them and focusing on that. And I just was kind of,
I feel like you're a pretty accomplished person though, right? Like there are things
I feel
that,
like
like what did you want to be?
less
What did you want to
accomplished.
do when you were a kid?
I wanted to be a teacher for a while.
Okay.
I wanted to be a violinist. I'm still hoping more recently, like with school and things like that, I want to do something where I travel a lot.
Okay.
And probably do something with, government work kind of a thing with like different countries, international policy type related, which I still feel like that one could be on the table.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, I mean,
still a dream I'm working on, but
the violinist, you accomplished that, didn't you? Wouldn't you say?
yeah, for the most part. I was never like the best.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be the best of wherever I was, even if it was just the Idaho Falls Youth Symphony.
Yeah.
And I never quite got there,
Yeah.
which is a little disappointing.
Yeah, I feel like that was kind of my biggest thing. But I think that was one of my biggest revelations from this book was growing up, I always had pretty lofty goals. I was just like him, pretty blessed with parents, that were very supportive and, wanted me to chase my dreams and things like that. So I always had pretty big goals. Like if I was going to say what my goals were growing up, it would have been probably one of my earliest goals that I can remember was being a Blue Angels pilot.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
Which never accomplished that one. But
Could you still?
well, that's the thing is now after reading this book and he talks about kind
think you
of
still
roundabout ways that he kind of accomplished his goal, what he wanted to do. I was thinking, and I was talking to Olivia, I was like, there's maybe still a chance in my life. And it would be a hard chance, like a very small chance. But there are people that ride with them. You know what I mean? And go like on like flights with them. And so they're not the pilots, but they could still do everything.
That would still count, especially by his definition.
And by his definition, that would totally count. So I was like, that one I could still maybe do.
That's cool.
I'd have to, I don't know, small miracle meet some people that can get me in
Still
some
out
doors.
there, still
but
on the table.
still on the table.
Okay.
The Olympics was always one of mine. Which
got so close.
I kind of, by his definitions, I
would
still
say
feel
you.
like, because one of the things that I really liked about his book was when he talks about how the experiences to getting to the goals was the more important part than the actual goal itself.
Yeah.
And he talks about how like what you learn and who you become on getting to that spot is really the most important part.
Right.
And I feel like that's what I got out of speed skating was kind of that, the experience of, I was able to, train for 5 years with everybody who went to the Olympics.
Say, you were
I was
in
right
that
there.
environment. You were in that. Those
all of
circles.
my friends, I was doing the same workouts as all of those guys, the same coaches, the same, so it was really cool to like kind of be that and have that experience in my life. And that would be one thing that I would say, like, I could check the box of not going to the Olympics, but kind of being like having the experience of, working hard to try to get to the Olympics,
right.
Yeah. Like that's not one that I would ever say, like, I didn't try, you know? And I think that was one of the cooler things about the book is that he doesn't necessarily talk about how he accomplished word for word all of his goals.
Yeah, I like that.
But he talks about how like he never stopped trying to accomplish his goals and kind of the results along the way that made it feel like that.
Yeah, especially like with the NFL one. Obviously, he never made it to the NFL, but he.
I feel like that was his lamest accomplishment.
His lamest accomplishment, but he does pull a lot out of the experience. He didn't even, like you in the Olympics, like you said, you were in that environment, you were with those people. He never even made it that far as the NFL goes. But like you were saying, he pulled a lot out of as far as he did get, which is kind of the focus. And like you said, I like that too, that he's not so hung up on the super specifics, but gets really close.
Hey, get out. Dang kids. We're trying to keep her out of it and like not say her name and not have her on and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we're going to have to cut that for sure. But trying to think where we were, but I'll just segue then instead of where we were. For me, I think, well, so that was one of my goals. Speed skating, going to the Olympics was one of my goals. Having a family and moving to Alaska is one of my goals. So if Olivia is listening to this
I can't
episode,
really support that.
you
Last
can't
one.
really
No.
no. So, I mean, there's still a chance of that one, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully, and if Jamie's listening to this one, she's going to be like upset. She's gonna be like, no, you can't move to Alaska.
We're on the same team on that.
I think there's a lot of people on Team Idaho and there's a couple people on Team Alaska. But
I mean, it would be cool for me to come visit you. 'Cause
yeah, see,
that's
you
what
just
would
said you
have
want to
happen.
travel all the time.
I do want to travel, but I mean, it's one thing to travel to Alaska. It's another to have you live there the whole time, all the time.
You can just come up every year. See, it's the best time of the
I'll
year,
think
the
about
summers.
I'll think about it.
Yeah. So that was definitely a goal. That one's still on the table.
Yeah.
Then I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh,
I know.
I didn't know that.
No, not a lot of people do. And I missed the boat on that one pretty hard. But
That one's
I think
it's hard to go back to.
if I think back on it, I think the thing that I wanted from being a doctor
Yeah.
was more of the, like, I used to think the doctors, because there was a doctor that we knew growing up. He wasn't actually even a doctor. He was an endodontist.
Oh.
And he worked 2 days a week and he just
Oh.
played.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really what I wanted out of being a doctor. Is like I wanted the
schedule.
flexibility, the lifestyle of being like really involved with family, as well as like being, financially able to, have fun and take care of your family, but also not having to do the normal 9 to 5.
Right.
And so if I have to think about it, like really that's what I was going after. I didn't want to be a doctor for like any of
The medical
the
side.
the noble reason. Like
The
I want to
help
help
people.
people side of things. I was more of like there's a dude I know who only works 2 days a week
I'm gonna
and
do
plays. So I
Yeah.
want to do that. So I could say like,
You
I think
kinda-
I've kind of accomplished that.
Yeah.
Like my schedule allows me to like really be flexible and
That's nice.
provide for my family. So I would say I'm kind of close on a lot of the goals,
Yeah.
which is kind of fun. Like
That is
just kind of
cool,
like looking
thinking
through my
about
life.
that. Yeah.
Really, I think the hardest one is going to be the Blue Angels. That one's going to be rough for sure.
Now that I know, I support it. We're gonna make it. We're
Yeah.
gonna make it happen.
So if you know anybody
One
that
day.
flies
I'm gonna have
jets for the Navy,
Oh shoot.
but yeah. But although with that one being hard, I think that's also one thing that I think that was probably the most important part of the book for me personally was when he talks about walls. So, I wanted to read this quote and then kind of talk to you about it. But he says, brick walls are there for a reason. Brick walls, and he's talking specifically about like hurdles to get to accomplish your challenge or your goals. And he says, brick walls are there for a reason. Brick walls are not there to keep us out. Brick walls are there to give us a chance to show how badly we want something, because brick walls are there to stop the people who don't want it badly enough. And I think that's the most important part of the whole book.
Right. The whole book. So overall, when I think about him and just his life that he's sharing with us, the word old fashioned comes to mind.
Okay.
In the best way, which sounds odd, but I just think the stories he tells, and especially like the way that he grew up and then how he interacts with people, as an adult. And of course, this was a little while ago. I think it was published like 2008, something like that.
Yeah.
So it is a little bit older, but
Not
still
that old though. I mean, only
right,
like 12 years.
not that old. And so
2008. I'm like, it's not that old. I'm not that old, right?
no, but the way that he is and talks and the things that he's sharing just makes me feel like it makes me think that people don't do things like that anymore. People don't talk that way. They don't interact with other people that way. And the reason I'm talking about this is because you're saying, he liked that he was talking about these brick walls. And so another big thing I drew from the book was that he worked really hard. He kind of alludes to it a little bit or talks about it a little bit, but not as much as I think, not as much as he should based on what he accomplished and the fact that it probably was really hard and it was a lot of work. And the only reason he was able to accomplish some of these more outlandish goals was because he worked really hard to be in a position that was kind of a big deal as in his field. And Carnegie Mellon's pretty good school. And he was like,
decent.
I think at the time he was probably at some of the forefront as far as like virtual reality stuff goes, technology goes.
I mean, he consulted for Star Trek and for
Right.
Disney. So
Right.
like,
He was in a pretty high up position. And so, but I'm like, you don't get there without working really hard. And I feel like, again, people just don't work like that anymore. I don't know. It just seemed very
old fashioned
in a way that I love and I miss a little bit. I always think I was born in the wrong time, but
yeah, I do too. Why do you think that is though? Because I feel like, I don't know, me personally, I relate to him pretty well. I don't know. I really liked everything because I think as a person, I kind of gravitate towards that. I'm one of those people that set goals and like setting goals. And then I also don't get discouraged very often.
Oh,
like,
which he didn't either.
No,
so
like he just kind of keeps going and, he just is like, I don't know. Again, he's like brick walls there to keep people out who don't want it badly enough. And I think that's kind of how I feel about a lot of things. Like if I even think about this podcast, I think, obviously it's not where I'd like it to be as far as like viewership and everything like that.
Early days.
It is, but I've had a lot of people come up and talk to me and be like, how long are you going to do that for? Like, what are your goals? Like, what are your thoughts? Like, how long have you been doing it? That's a long time already. And in my mind, I'm always just like, no, like, I'm just going to keep doing it till it works. Like, I don't even care.
Yeah.
And like, if you don't keep doing something, you'll never accomplish the thing that you go out to accomplish with. Like people are so quick to give up if they don't have that instant success. And
exactly.
I just don't know where that comes from. Because me personally, like to me, I just don't get it. I'm like, if I gave up on everything I've ever tried right now, again, I would be a PE teacher and I would be just like, I wouldn't do any, not that there's anything wrong with a PE teacher, but that was kind of where I originally thought I wanted to do. Like I was like, you know what? I was going to school to be a PE teacher and that's what I was going to do. And then I was like, you know what? I want to do something different. And what I wanted to do was like really hard. I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to have the flexibility of my own schedule and my own life. And so I've just never stopped working at that through failed businesses, through successful businesses. And so I just relate really well to that. So I don't understand kind of the other side of it. You know what I mean? Like that to me is like, if you want to accomplish anything, obviously it's going to take, time. If it wasn't worth accomplishing, everybody would,
everyone would do it.
You know what I mean? Like everybody would have a career where they make, tons and tons of money and rarely work. You know what I mean? Like that's the dream, obviously.
Yeah.
So like, where do you think that comes from?
Well, I like to think that I'm a hard worker, even if I haven't accomplished as much as he has. But part of it, I think, like you said, is that a lot of times now we get this instant success or instant whatever. I think a lot of it comes from I think it depends on how you grew up, how your parents reacted to things. Like he said, his parents pushed him, they supported him, they fostered that, imagination and that kind of a thing. And I think if your parents were quick to let you quit things, or he kind of mentioned the whole like participation trophy. He doesn't say it in that way, but basically like trying to validate their kid every step of the way, which you don't want to be mean to your child.
No, there's a balance for sure.
But also, you shouldn't be rewarded for nothing. I think that pushes, I don't know, maybe I'm going to get a lot of hate for this philosophy for kids I don't even have. But I think, sometimes we do try and validate. Well, maybe validate's not the right word, but yes, try and make you feel good about everything all the time when really it's okay to feel a little bit discouraged, a little bit disappointed and think, but because in a way that's going to lead you to work harder and to get better at things. I don't know.
No, I would totally agree with that. Cause I think most people who maybe aren't successful are jealous of people who are successful. They think that successful people just are motivated 100% of the time. And that's definitely not true. Like successful people don't think the entire time, this is going to work, this is going to work, this is going to work. Successful people just don't quit.
Right.
And so, and obviously there's a time to quit some things if it's failing, but they don't quit early. That's what I would say instead. So like, again, I don't every morning wake up and think, I love all of the businesses that I do, and I love all the ventures that I've ever gone on. There are definitely days where I'm like, I hate everything that I do. I don't want to do any of this anymore. Nothing's working. And like a lot of times nothing is working, but it's the people that continue to stick with it that always work. And I think that's kind of the misconception is people are like, well, I'm just not positive like that, or I just don't think like that. And most people don't. Nobody thinks like that. Nobody's 100% of the time like, oh, I'm always successful. It's that, which is why I think the participation trophies are so bad. It's because, again, you shouldn't think you're always successful.
Yeah, because that's what motivates you to.
You should still think that it's possible, though. That's the difference.
Yeah, I also think time is a big factor. Like he talked a lot about that, and I loved the way that he went about it, because obviously time is something on his mind with only 6 months left to live. But he was saying that he's always just been good at maximizing his time and using it wisely. And I think that is a big thing too now, where a lot of my time, I would say, is wasted. Scrolling or just
rewatching TV shows.
Yeah. Or
I do that constantly.
Yeah. I'm trying to think like how, we just have a lot more going on now. I feel like maybe I'm making excuses or just trying to make myself feel better, but it seems like there's a lot more going on and it's draining. And so then I feel like I use my time poorly. I don't have the energy for the time that I have left to use it wisely. And so I've been thinking about this lately, where I need to find a better balance, just because, there's things going on all the time. People need things all the time. People can reach me when they need things all the time.
Yeah.
And so I really liked the way that he talked about time management, being smart about it, because ultimately, like you said, that's basically all we have is our time and how we use it and what we do with it. So I wonder if that's factored too, is we've just gotten, because there are more options too, maybe there's more things you can do. And so you use that time less effectively. I don't know. I know.
I keep getting this book and Outliers all mixed up, because Outliers talks a lot about 10,000 hours. That's kind of the section that I was in and I was reading yesterday.
Yeah.
And it takes 10,000 hours to be a master of anything. It's basically what he comes to. And he says that, essentially the people who become professionals and become the best at their craft, it's not that they're gifted and they can skip the 10,000 hours. It's that they put in the 10,000 hours earlier than most people. So instead of reaching 10,000 hours at age 30, they reach 10,000 hours at age 20 in their craft. And because of that, they're just associated at an earlier age with, more advanced people. And that's what does it. And he says it's all about time management. Like as a 2-year-old or as a 5-year-old, you're spending, 4 hours a week practicing the violin, and then as a 6-year-old, you're spending, 6 hours a week or practicing the violin. He's like, by the people that really make it, by the time they're 18, they're spending 30 hours a week. And it's like, they just manage their time in a way that allows them to accomplish the goals that they want to.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just are somebody who reaches 10,000 hours when you're, 30 or 40,
it's different.
It's different because you're not with the people who are,
do it earlier
in age. So it was interesting, kind of the overlap between the two of those.
And that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I kind of saw that growing up. So
saw that with the violin. Yeah. So I would say, and Olivia's would kill me if we did an entire episode without not talking about it, because that's what she was like. She's like, Claire's amazing. And Claire is amazing. So for anybody listening, Claire's amazing. But I wanted to kind of tie in both of those things with, kind of overcoming walls as like something that needs to be developed, especially at an early age.
Yeah.
And kind of your story of kind of overcoming some of those walls. Because I feel like most people would have quit the violin, right?
Yeah.
Would you have said?
I would. Yeah. Yeah. I would say that. Yeah.
So at what age did you start playing the violin?
I think I was 3 or 4. I think it was 4.
Did you always love it?
I don't remember not loving it.
Okay.
So I would say yes. There was maybe some of the earlier years my mom kind of had to force me that I can't remember, but yeah, I would say so.
And you said that was one of your childhood goals. You wanted to be good at the violin, right?
Yes, I wanted to be a concert violinist.
Okay.
Yeah. And I was just a crazy kid. And so my mom was like, you need something to occupy yourselves. Let's give this a try. And
violin stuck.
Picked very well. Yeah.
Nice. And so you played violin from 4, and then you kept playing, and then eventually you got into an accident.
Got into an accident.
So explain what happened.
I was in an ATV accident, and it crushed my left hand, which is the hand you need to play the strings on the violin. So that was kind of a big deal.
So it tipped over, and then your hand got...
So it tipped, and my hand got crushed under like the roll bar on top.
Okay, so
it was like a side by
side?
side. Yeah.
Okay. You were like gripping the roll bar, and then it crushed
I
the
must
ground.
have, yeah. I actually don't totally remember. I think I've just...
What age were you?
I was 13.
Wow. So this is kind of like, again, moving back to outliers. This is like the pivotal age for people.
Oh.
That's what he
really?
says. Yeah. So he says like earlier, again, you have to be still active in accumulating those hours while you're young. But he says between 11 and 14 is really when kids make the big jump between allocating more and more time to it, between showing when they're going to become like top,
they're really gonna
top tier
go.
or just kind of float through the middle. So
That's really interesting because then I would say,
I mean, that's
I feel like I can say this
unfortunate.
because I'm not ever going to be good, like that good anymore. But I would say I probably was going to
do really well.
Because just, like a couple weeks before the accident happened. So I was it was the summer before before 8th grade. And we had just gone in and talked with like the principal and the school counselor. I went to like a smaller school. So we talked to them and we had arranged it so that I could leave school early so I could practice more. So I was practicing several hours a day at that point, like 2 or 3 hours a day.
So you were right there. I mean, according to Malcolm Gladwell, you were right there with the
really
supportive
interesting.
parents at the right time to where
I just switched. I was just with a new teacher, or I was just about to switch to a new, more advanced teacher, or like that was kind of in the future because I had been with a really great teacher who I feel like really got me up to where I needed to be to accomplish that kind of a thing. And then there was another teacher we had all kind of talked about me eventually switching to.
Yeah, because he talks about how, and again, I know I'm bouncing back and forth between books, but they relate really well because he talks about how it's not so much about people with natural talent. Again, it's people who at the right times in their lives have the right amount of support to like allocate the right amount of time and attention.
Interesting.
So like regardless of your talent level, you were at the right time in life and at the right amount of
level.
interest and practice to where you could have been on that trajectory.
That is very interesting.
I mean, like you really could have gone and accomplished your childhood dreams.
I could see it. At that point, I could really see it, I think. And maybe I just say that because, it's in hindsight. But I do feel like at that point, like I was kind of surprising myself just with, I kind of suddenly had that revelation of, I can really play this. And this is actually more than just, my after school hobby. This isn't something that I just do for like 30 minutes or an hour, like it's getting really serious. And I really loved it. Like they talk about the, like you hear talk about the flow state. I totally, like that is what I was doing when I would practice. Like I would just get lost and time would pass and I would have no idea, even for things like just scales warming up. Like I even loved that part of it. Like I just, would get lost. And anyway.
Yeah. So you were 13.
No,
you were in all this. No, you were in all this.
I was in that time. Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. So that's
and
really
you rolled
interesting.
it and then you crushed
I rolled it. I crushed my left hand. And it was pretty bad. So I wasn't, after surgeries and physical therapy.
How many, do you know, like how many surgeries? And
6.
Just on your hand?
Just on my hand. Yeah.
Okay.
So after all that, the whole time I was thinking about the violin. Like that was one of my first thoughts after, while we were waiting for the ambulance, I thought, oh my gosh, I didn't practice enough and this is punishment. But that was one of my first thoughts was, how is this, like, what am I going to do about the violin? Like, that's still a factor here. What are we going to do? This is this doesn't sound good for the violin. This doesn't seem good for the violin and my prospects there. So that was still very much like on my mind. So after surgeries and physical therapy, I just was like, we're going to make it work. I just loved it.
So
I just
that was
really
the
did.
wall, right?
That was the wall. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And so how did you get around that? Or how did you get over it? You don't go around walls, you go around.
It'd be great if we could go around. We tried, so they had to revise one of my fingers, aka cut it off. But we like their medical term of revise. And then one finger is missing a knuckle, and the other fingers work okay, but not perfectly. And so we tried to get a prosthetic finger for that one that they had to revise. And that just wasn't working. Like it just wasn't great. It wasn't functional enough. And my other fingers weren't working well enough either to make that feasible. So we were just thinking about it, talking about it. And everyone, when you learn how to play the violin, you learn playing the strings with your left hand. It doesn't matter if you're left-handed, right-handed, doesn't matter. That's the way everyone learns it. I'm not sure why. I probably should know by now. I think it maybe has something to do with playing in an orchestra. So you're all facing the same way and you're facing out. I don't know. So we started thinking, and I had a super supportive violin teacher at the time. Well, yeah, she's
and family
and family. And yeah. But my violin teacher was really great because she just embraced whatever she just had that same thought of like, yeah, what are we going to do so you can keep playing? Like it wasn't a thought that I would stop. And so we decided to try switching it. So I would play the strings with my right hand, which was still functional. And it worked. And it was, it was ugly at first. And I taught violin lessons in high school, and kids, their violins are small, and so they're just sound bad anyway. And then the kids aren't great because they're just learning. Every kid sounds bad. And so I remember, later hearing these kids play it in high school, and I was like, man, that is what I sounded like when I went back, when switching to the other side. Like I had taken years and lessons, hours of practice, but I sounded horrible again when I started on the other side. But it worked, and it was hard. But at the same time, I feel like it wasn't as hard as it should have been. Like I think that was kind of like a gift. I'm was like, okay, your dreams are kind of dead. And you've lost this thing that you really love, and you've had all these other hard things on top of it. So in my mind, at least, it wasn't difficult. It was hard to learn to get your fingers to do what you wanted. They were slower. They weren't used to this kind of a thing. And so that was frustrating because my mind knew all these things that my fingers didn't. But as far as like the actual mechanics of it kind of a thing, like it was never confusing, I guess. Whereas a lot of people think that it was, and it wasn't. And so that's why I'm like, I feel like that was kind of a gift where I was like,
have you ever found any other, right-handed or left-handed violinists?
Oh, right-handed. There's like a couple, I think there's like one on YouTube that does random things.
Nice.
But not many. And when I would play in orchestras after that, like I was the only one. Like, yeah. So I've never actually met anyone who plays that way. Never talked to anyone who plays that way. We found like a couple random people online, but they were, really not common at all.
But since your accident then, have you had any opportunities to do anything unique?
Yes. So Jenny Oaks Baker is a big violinist. She's really good.
She was in like the national orchestra, wasn't she, at one point?
I think at one point, yeah. And she's made a bunch of albums, and I just really liked her even before this. So she came and played, and I was able to play with her a song, which that was really cool. It was great to meet her and to do that, and which I think it was because of what I had accomplished that I was able to do that. And so without, that accident and all that kind of thing, that never would have happened. And also just to share that experience with people, of having to kind of get over that wall. Because we all have walls. Yeah. And so that one was just a little bit more obvious, I feel like, because it was physical, and then, the whole violin thing. So yeah, I've been able to share it with a lot of people that, again, I normally wouldn't have been. able to talk to. And so that's been cool. And to have them share back walls that they've worked to get over. That's been cool.
Yeah, I would say if, whatever his name is, the guy on the last lecture.
Oh, Randy Pausch.
Randy Pausch, yeah. If he counts being whatever, Spock or, Captain Kirk. That's who he wanted to be. He wanted to be Captain Kirk. And he counts meeting him and helping him with virtual reality as checking that off of his childhood dreams.
Yeah.
I would count playing with Jenny Oaks Baker.
Yeah.
As that kind of accomplishment of your goal. You know what I mean? Like,
you're right. I need to look at it like he would look at it.
You got to do something that normal violinists would never get to do. Like a very unique,
that's true,
special experience.
Yeah.
Pertaining to something that you loved as a child that you got to accomplish. So I would say that would be a goal from a childhood that you have actually accomplished. Like if you were to write your memoirs, I would say totally accomplish that goal.
Okay. I like that. I didn't, you're right.
And there was like a wall to get over it. Like it wasn't just, straight and easy all the way through.
Yeah.
And I think that's for most people who really want to accomplish something. Like, again, there are some people who do, one for one accomplish their goals. But I think more important is that you get to do something special with the goals that you set out to be.
Yeah.
So like, again, for me, the Olympics, like I didn't get to go to the Olympics, but I had a very special experience with kind of my training and working with people and, meeting Olympians and kind of having that mindset and learning from them that I would say, that was special. And I would never have accomplished that had I given up when I was, 14 and just been like, you know what? I'm done with this whole goal. You know what I mean? Like I just don't want to do that anymore. So I would say you've definitely accomplished that one.
Well, thank you. That makes me feel so good.
Yeah, see, there you go. But let's see. A couple other themes from this book. Sorry, I'm just reading through my notes here. I at one point wrote down that I think that he kind of talks like Michael from The Office. You know that episode of The Office when Michael thinks he's having a baby with Jan, and he makes the video of him trying to teach things to Dwight, and he's like, "How to jumpstart a car? First, you put these ends anywhere on the engine." I at one point I was just like, "Yeah, that's what this book feels like for his kids," but with like somebody who's like actually intelligent, not Michael Scott.
He was throwing out all these life lessons, but he had some. He always had great stories or like evidence, I guess, to back them up, which what was really cool.
Yeah, he was definitely a good storyteller. Like that was really good.
Yeah.
One thing that I really liked that he said, again, just kind of piggybacking off some of the stuff that we've already talked about, but he said the best shortcut is the long way, and it's just hard work. So, and then he talks about how hard work is like, it's basically like compound interest if you're like investing in something. The more you put into it early, like the more dividends you get later. So you can't just like work hard at something for, just a little bit at the very end, like procrastination. He was just saying like, you've got to put in all the hard work at the beginning and then continue to work hard. But all of that work that you put in the beginning compounds with time. Yeah.
Well, and he said that too, kind of about fundamentals. He emphasized a few times that how important fundamentals are and that people kind of forget that. They get distracted with the later, greater, more impressive things that only come once you have the fundamentals down. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. I just think that professors are really interesting people for the most part. Some of them are less interesting. I had some pretty dud professors. But I would say probably most of the most interesting people that I know are professors. Really? So yeah, we have a family friend who is a professor, and he's kind of in a lot of ways like this guy, like Randy, where I just really like the way that they think. They're just always thinking, they're always looking for opportunities to learn, and they find them in the most interesting, obscure places, and they're able to do something with nothing. I feel like this guy, like not that he had nothing, but where he was able to accomplish all these kind of crazy things with whatever he had. And I feel like professors can have this mindset, and again, I feel like they're the only ones that I've found so far that can have this mindset and the opportunity, just the nature of their work, I think provides opportunities. Like he said, like sabbaticals or things like that. But for just really interesting experiences and thinking about things in ways that most people don't.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So how do you think you developed that then?
I think part of it comes from just that they're exposed to constant learning. You know, I've only been out of school for like a year and a half, but I feel like I can tell.
Like you've stopped learning?
Like I've stopped learning. Even when I try to learn, I feel like it's not the same as when I was in school. You're just constantly exposed to, you know, doing things that are hard, synthesizing information, being exposed to new information, and other people who are talking about those same things, and they're sharing their opinions, and you're sharing your opinion, and you're working with that. And I just think there are a lot of things in school that are, again, unique. And so a professor, you have that your whole life. If I did not hate research as much as I did, as I learned that I did, I think it would be great to be a professor. I just think it's a really cool
So you're very
field.
pro school then.
I'm very pro school. Yes. I realize that there are some people that it doesn't work for, and I totally get it. You made it work.
I hated school.
Yeah.
I hated school so much.
And not that you can't like learn in other ways, for sure. But at least for me, and I think for some people, it provides an opportunity that's hard to, or opportunities that are hard to get in other ways.
Yeah, I think it does it puts you in a very opportunity rich environment.
Right, exactly.
And I think that was one of the things with starting this podcast that I really was kind of missing, or that I really wanted to accomplish, was that, you know, continuous learning. Like that's what I wanted to get out of books. Like I wanted to learn how to teach myself new things and kind of push myself to put me into opportunities, like, you know, that I could always take advantage of, because, you know, the more you know, the more things that you can take advantage of.
Well, and the more people you know.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
It's another environment where you're with so many people all the time, different people constantly. And I think a lot of that came, like it showed in his book, was a lot of ways he was able to accomplish things was through these connections he had made. And people that he knew. Like it was someone that he knew that was in this company, and so but they had been a student of his, or they had been a mentor, and you know, so you're making these connections that then allow you to do a lot as well.
Yeah, but those are all active, you know, pursuits. Like you have to go out and you have to actively meet people. You have to actively, you know, pursue
which you can
learning.
do in other ways, and people don't take advantage of even when given the opportunity. So yeah, it definitely is still your own.
But I think that's what's missing for a lot of people. Is people just don't have that. One, a lot of people just don't have the time. Like it is very, I mean, it's hard to, when you've got a job, you know, 9 to 5, that you have to support your family. And then you've got, you know, family in of itself. Sometimes you're working 1 or 2 jobs just to, you know, survive. And then you've got, you know, kids and other obligations.
I don't know about this, but yeah. Sounds like a lot of work.
I mean, it's a lot. And
your kids are a handful.
Oh, no, dude, they are a handful. But I get it. Like I get why people don't like continue to actively pursue their childhood dreams. Like,
no, you definitely have to be very focused on it, and it's hard to do that when you have all these other things. Yeah, you have to make it a priority. But I do think that it pays like huge dividends. Like he says, like it is something that is worthwhile to make it more of a priority in your life than I think a lot of people do. Well, like I just know a lot of people who just kind of, I don't want to say like float by, but like are okay with. I've realized that
not progressing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like not going out and doing more and more and more. And it's not so much, I don't know, doing more and more and more. I always kind of like, ugh, at that
maybe
kind
like
of phrase.
Doing differently.
Yeah. Or doing what they want to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like people are so okay just being told what to do and not doing what they want anymore, that they're just okay with that forever.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me sad.
Well, and again, another thing that I'm envious of professors is they're getting paid to do like
what they want.
Yeah, what they want, what they're interested in, and to keep learning. That's what their job is. And so they don't, I mean, I don't know what they do all the time with their free time, but like they're not having as much as other people to make the extra time for, which I think is great. Anyway.
No, yeah, I can see that. So yeah, I guess you gotta find something in your life that either gives you the flexibility to do that or
just be very intentional
with what you pursue.
Yeah. No, it definitely is very easy to just
Give up.
kind of do what you're doing and not really work to make it more.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
So, let's see. Did this book at all make you rethink your priorities in life and kind of what you want to focus on? Like, was it a good introspective book, or would you say it was just more of a fun story?
I think it was both. It's definitely, like you said, it's a little intimidating, but also inspiring. And it makes me kind of want to look again at what I'm pursuing. Am I pursuing anything, really? And what is it? And is that what I want it to be? And if it is, great. And how can I keep working towards it? And if it's not, okay, then let's change some things up. Let's do something differently. Yeah. It was a little intimidating, but also inspiring. And even in, like you said, like we talked about, how I use my time and what I'm doing with my mind and that kind of a thing. So no, I thought it was great. And just lots of great reminders of things that you kind of already know. Like we said, never, like, don't quit too soon, or,
the thank you notes, the
thank you notes,
the gratitude. Like there were lots of
lots
nuggets.
Of great little things. I'm still looking for a man. And he said to his daughter, if just ignore everything they say and pay attention to what they do. I was like, yeah, like you kind of know that, but it's a great reminder, and to have someone spell it out for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, lots of good little things like that.
And as sad as it is that obviously that he was diagnosed with cancer and everything like that, I felt like it made his point very like urgent, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
It made it
like a timetable. Like it made me feel a little bit more urgent about, like, cause I like I said, I relate really well to this book, and I feel like I do a lot in the book. Like the thank you notes and stuff, like that's my wife. Like she kills it with like the little notes and acts of kindness. She's amazing with that kind of stuff. I'm more of like the goal oriented side of the book. I felt like I really related to, but kind of that you never know when your time's going to be up aspect of the book. Like really,
that's a great reminder.
I think people need that reminder. Like you just never know how many days you have left. And if you keep putting off, the things that you want to do, one day you're just not going to be able to do them.
Right.
So,
yeah, totally.
If you had to write a last lecture,
oh gosh,
did you think at all about what you would write it about?
I tried not to.
You tried not to. Or anything that you feel like you've really learned in life? Because I don't know. I was very introspective with this book.
I
probably should have given you that question before the
This is terrible that I wasn't.
I put you like
but
on
I was
the spot.
kind of like, I don't know why I was avoiding that. Like I was trying not to be, which is so silly because ultimately I do wonder what I would say. And I think a lot of it would be what he said and what we've talked about of just working hard.
Yeah.
That is just super important.
Yeah.
And I always think one thing I feel like I learn over and over again is it's a reminder to myself that I never know what's happening in other people's lives. And to just try and keep that with me all the time. So in a way that's going to affect how I treat other people. Not that I'm like always super mean to everyone, but you get impatient with people, you get frustrated with things, you get annoyed by things. And, cause a lot of, even with all the technology, I feel like we all still interact with a lot of people, hopefully. And, when I remember that, I just feel like everything's always better. Maybe I'm able to learn from somebody, or maybe I'm just making their day a little better. Maybe I'm just not making their day worse. I feel like that's something that I learn over and over again is interacting with other people, the way I treat other people. It's very important, and it needs to come from a place of, I don't know what they're dealing with or why they are the way they are. Maybe they have liver cancer. They have 6 months left to live and they look super healthy, but really like
you just don't
things
know.
are crazy in their life, and I just don't know that. So I feel like that's one thing I would emphasize is just being kind to everyone all the time, because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really should think more about this. But like I said, I think it's a lot of what we've talked about of hard work and being more intentional. That's one that I feel like I'm learning more now too, is that, there are a lot of options for what you do and how you spend your time. And they're just kind of going to happen and pass you by unless you are intentional about them.
Yeah. I've thought about this a lot recently, not just from reading this book, but I actually had
You have 6 months left.
No, yeah, I have 6 months. No, I had a cousin who, her husband passed away, like in the night, randomly. Oh. They have 2 kids, pretty young, and I mean, we're literally the same age. So it was like crazy that all happened. And so between, thinking about that and how short life is, and you never really know like what's going to happen in your life, and then reading this book and kind of seeing, again, you never really know what's going to happen in life and everything. So I've thought about it a lot recently. Like if I had to pass down one thing or what it is that I want to pass down to my kids, I think I would be very much along the same lines as this book, but I think, again, I've thought about it a lot. So if I had to come up with like a title for my lecture, it would be "You Can Do Hard Things." And it would be just knowing that like, doesn't matter what it is in life, but that like you have the ability to do hard things. And I feel like a lot of people don't. I don't know if they sell themselves short quite a bit, and think like, oh, I'm just not talented, or oh, I'm just not in a position that I can be successful, or oh, they make excuses for why other people are successful instead of themselves. And there's a million excuses out there, but ultimately I think every single person can do hard things if they put their mind to it. And that would be ultimately, I think, what I would talk about most to my kids. And if I could pass anything along, it would be, don't be afraid to do hard things. And I think it falls very much in line with this book, which is why I enjoyed it so much. Because that really was his.
It'll get you to a lot of places.
Yeah.
And I think, again, he doesn't touch on it super specifically, but you can tell that is kind of an underlying theme for sure.
So if you had to rank this book on a scale of 1 to 5 for fun and then 1 to 5 for importance, what would you rank it?
I would say a 5 for importance, just because it's a lot of, like I said, a lot of things that you think you know, but it's a great reminder, especially when you only have 6 months left to live. And maybe like a 3 or even a 4 for fun, because even though it does have that sad overtone, he sounds like a really fun guy, and he's had a lot of really fun experiences. So I enjoyed reading about that. Yeah, I thought it was a fun read in a way.
Yeah.
It was unexpected.
Yeah, so I would give it also a 5 for importance. I think everything that he talks about in this, I think, again, even if you know it, it's important reminders. Like this was a very
like he says he loves
book.
Cliches, but he loves them for a reason because they, have a lot of applicability. Same thing. Like all these things, they're very important.
Yeah. Then I'd give it a 4 for fun because he's a very good storyteller. Like it was fun seeing parts of his life come together and like talking about, him as a young, like he was just very good at bringing out him as a child and then kind of continuing that throughout his whole life. Yeah,
reflects as an adult even.
Yeah. Like he was just a very, very good storyteller and lots of fun stories throughout the whole thing. Like he did live a very interesting life. So I think I would give it a 4 for fun and a 5 for importance overall. So I really enjoyed the book.
I did too. I have been recommending it to a lot of people.
And it's a really short read.
It is, yeah. It's
so like
quick and easy.
It's not bad at all.
Yeah.
So let me make sure that I didn't have anything else here. I don't think I did. Oh, I really like this quote at the end. And this kind of ties everything up together. And again, why I think that I really liked this book. But somebody asked the co-writer, because he had somebody help him write it, why they think that the last lecture struck a chord with so many people, like why so many people enjoyed the book.
Yeah, it became really big. Even the video of his lecture.
And he said that the co-writer says that it's because that we're all dying and Randy's fate is all ours. So like we all have a limited amount of time and it's kind of just a good reminder of that. And I think, again, that's why I liked it so much, because I think people can use that reminder in their lives. It kind of kicks them up to the next gear. So many of the self-help books and everything that you read are like, do this, 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 and this, and this, and you'll be successful. Whereas this one was more retroactively looking instead of like forward looking. And I think that was kind of a fresh way of thinking about things.
Well, and it lets you kind of take what you want and apply it in the way that you want. So you can be really overwhelmed and try and change and do all these things, or you can just take one of the little reminders he gives you and you really see how it paid off for him and how it can pay off for you.
Yeah. No, I liked it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being on the podcast.
Yeah.
How was it?
Thanks for having me. Not too bad.
Not too bad. That's what I was aiming for. Not too bad.
Good.
Awesome.
Nailed it.
Yeah. So for anybody who's still listening to this episode of the podcast, thank you for listening. Please make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you're listening on YouTube. If you're on Apple or Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. And then we are still looking for guests. So if you're listening to this episode and you're like, hey, that looked not too bad.
It's pretty good, actually. Pretty good.
And you're interested in reading a book, we can read any book. I'm open to suggestions. If you don't have any suggestions, I have a list of books, probably I think like 70 or 80 books long at this point. So I have plenty of books that we can choose from. I'd love to read a book with you and come on the podcast. So thanks for listening.